So tell me, Lisa, are you currently running any promos or contests or giveaways that you want to tell our listeners and viewers about?
Well, for your listeners, we can offer a half-hour demo of Courageous Conversations, which is our main offering that we do, which is bring your own difficult conversation that you have to have in future with somebody. It might be a boss or a peer, or quite often a team member or a subordinate. Or in this case, it might not be business related, but
Okay.
we'll work with you to practice to discuss that conversation, to get a good perspective on it, practice it, and get some coaching.
Welcome to the Goddess Show podcast, voices of visionary women, inspiring female leaders by interviewing amazing guests to encourage us all to rise up. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Goddess Show, voices of visionary women, inspiring female leaders. And I'm really excited today because I've got a very special guest, Lisa Peers, who's the director of Peers and Players. And Lisa and I actually worked together a long time ago. So
Yeah.
I've got to tell you the theme of today and then tell you all about Lisa. So today's theme is how an actor turned her skills to providing lasting change for HR training and starting out as a successful actor, producer, and director in Australia for decades, starring in film, TV, and theatre. You founded your global communication skills business, Peers and Players, in 1998. So now based in San Francisco, you work with top tech companies like Cisco and Splunk, law firms, financial institutions, and more, leading a team of 300 people. So, congratulations. That's an amazing achievement. And I
Thank
have to ask you, what motivated and inspired you to start your business?
Well, it was financial initially. I mean, I had been a director and producer and actress, as you said, for many years. And then I had two small kids in the 80s. I had them in the 80s and 90s. And I didn't want to be going on tour or going, away with shows or shoots or whatever. In any case, I was at that age where my career was starting to even out a little. I was doing a lot of commercials and things like that and TV guest roles. And so I needed to still be bringing in money. And somebody asked me to do role play. And I loved it. It was so fascinating to be able to work as an actor, but for other people's growth. And so playing different roles and then giving people feedback on, you know, how they appeared or how they sort of impacted me. And then the person who was running the team wasn't doing it anymore. So I sort of started troubleshooting. And then next thing you know, I have a business. I approached a company and I'm like, oh, I've got a team of actors. And they're like, can you start next week? And I
Fantastic.
didn't,
It was
of
meant
course,
to
have a team
be.
of actors, but I did have friends who I'd worked with as a role play actor. And so I started out with a small team in Sydney of like 4 or 6 actors. And then it just grew from there. It's like, do you have people in Singapore? Do you have people in Hong Kong? Do you have people in America? And I already was a green card holder in the States, although I was living in Australia at the time. And so it sort of just took over my life because it grew exponentially. And I love the work. I just love working with people in that way and being able to use, as I said, my sort of drama-based skills, but to help people.
It's amazing how those skills transfer. And it sounds to me like you were on the right track and everything just fell into place.
It
So,
was amazing the way it started, and it's continued to grow. When you said I have 300 people, I mean, that's my team. They're consultants, but they're actors all around the world. And over 27 years, I've amassed this amazing team of people, and they're all incredible people.
well,
So I'm very,
congratulations. That's an incredible success. What an
it's,
achievement.
thank you. Yeah.
I'd love you to share something about your personal story that might inspire some of our viewers and listeners.
I think, well, like we're talking about, stay open to opportunities. When I was a young actor, I had a lot of opportunities come my way. I got to star in a movie straight out of drama school. I starred in a TV series, but I didn't really appreciate it. And I wasn't always the most grateful or gracious person at the time, because I started so young. And so now, through hard knocks over the years, I've learned to really and appreciate the opportunities that come my way and be grateful. I think an attitude of gratitude is like so important.
Absolutely. The more we're grateful for, the more we attract. And the thing about it is, too, would you say, saying that you took it for granted, would you say, I mean, what comes to my mind is youth wasted on the young? I mean, was it
Absolutely.
was it a product of being young? You said that, didn't you?
Well, I was young and talented, and yeah, I didn't have the wisdom to really appreciate it. I mean, I was dedicated to my work, and I tried to do a good job, but I wasn't always as appreciative of directors and producers who gave me opportunities, let's say, as I could have been.
And
Um,
how did you feel about the on-off nature of acting work at the time? Do you remember?
well, my mum was an actress, and so I had grown up in that world. And so for me, that's a way of life. I mean, I work with a lot of people. Obviously, a lot of our clients, all of our clients, have office jobs. I mean, things have changed now where people work from home and they have a lot more flexibility with their time and things.
Mm.
But the thought of having a 9 to 5 job has never crossed my mind. I've always lived with that, feast or famine kind of thing that actors live with.
I
And
can
in a way, I
certainly
love that.
relate to
I
that.
love that. I love variety. That's so important to me.
Mm.
So it's a way of life, and it can be stressful at times when the work doesn't come in or things don't go your way. We had a difficult experience last year with two of our clients. Cisco bought our other client, Splunk, and
Right.
laid off 10,000 people and then
10,000 people.
10,000 of their staff. And so then a lot of the trainings that we had booked in for last year fell over. Although we have other clients, but they were our two most regular clients. And so you are a little bit at the mercy of the market and what happens and where people are. And again, we're living in a time of major uncertainty in the States now,
Yes.
which is impacting the world.
Anything could
Um,
happen.
and so, it's not always easy to live that life. I mean, people who like certainty a lot more wouldn't be able to withstand what you and I know, a creative person's life can be very up and down. And
It can be.
it's always been that way for me. You're on a shoot, you're there for a couple of months, you have these intense relationships with people, and on the last day, you're like, stay in touch, let's give me your number, da, da. And then of course you never do. And you
Mm.
don't have, you don't see those people again unless you do another job with them.
That's so true.
And next thing you know, you're in another project. You're like on tour with a show or something, and the
Yeah.
same thing. You have these incredibly intimate working relationships for months or years or whatever, and then boom, you start
It's
all
all
over again.
over. I can certainly relate to the whole feast and famine, but I think
Yeah,
for me, one of the biggest gifts about being an actor has been learning to love that uncertainty you speak of.
yeah,
Dr. Deepak Chopra, I mention him quite often, but says something to the effect of the only certainty in life is uncertainty,
absolutely.
and I
That is so true. Yes.
it's so true, and I think becoming a friend to uncertainty is one of the best gifts that acting has given me personally. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I mean, if you have, you have to be resilient, right? You have to be resilient to be able to weather the highs and lows. And the highs can be so high, higher than most people would ever understand. And
Yeah,
yet the lows can be devastating. So
yeah,
it's great that you mentioned Deepak Chopra. I think it's really important to have an inner life, an inner stability that, a meditation practice, a yoga practice, or whatever it is, something that you can rely on to to help you weather those storms. And of course, relationships. other people.
Absolutely. To create an equilibrium so that anything that happens doesn't affect you as much, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so having said that, in that vein, what have been your biggest challenges so far?
In a business sense or in a personal sense?
Well, I would say probably personally, if you don't mind sharing. I mean, anything you'd like to share.
Oh, I don't mind at all because I have had some challenges. I didn't really have a dad from the age of about 5. My parents divorced, and I saw him for a few years, and then we moved from England to Australia, my mum and I didn't see him again for 8 years. So I think
Oh.
um, a very big challenge was not having that male role model in my life, and has led to some unfortunate, um, relationship choices along the way. And that's something I really, really wanted for my kids was to have a father and a stable, relationship with their dad, which they do, and to have a good man in their lives. Because for me, I think that ties back into like what I was saying before about being fairly unbalanced when I was younger.
Mm.
Um, so that was and continues to be a challenge. Although my mum and my mother was mentally ill, and so that was, or really, I
Oh.
wouldn't call it mentally ill. I think that's a misnomer. I think emotionally ill
Mm.
because obviously she, her husband left, and she was emotionally unstable for a lot of my childhood, and so that was another challenge where I had to learn to take care of her a lot of the time when
Mm.
I was quite,
So it sounds like you became a mother to your mother
in
and
some way, yeah.
in some way, and you you didn't have either parent really present, did you?
My mom was there for
Mm.
me. I knew she loved me. She was, like I said,
Oh, I'm
also an
sure
actor.
she was doing the best she
And so
could.
she did the best she could, but she had her problems and she was suicidal at times in my life.
Wow.
So,
Do
yeah,
you have siblings, Lisa?
not really. I mean, I have a half brother. My dad had a son, but I was 16 when he was born. And so we
So
have a
you
good
look after
relationship.
him as well.
I'm more like an auntie to him kind of
An
thing.
auntie.
Yeah, I love him dearly, but we didn't grow up together. So we have a bond, a strong bond. But, and we are siblings, but not in the sense that most people would think of, because I saw him very rarely when he was growing up.
Mm. So, my next question, I guess, is have you overcome these challenges? And if so, how did you do it? But I think you've kind of answered some of that because the end result really was, or the outcome that you desired was to not to have your children experience the same experiences that you did.
Yeah,
And you've achieved that by giving them a stable, loving home. So I've
yeah.
kind of answered your question for you. But
Well, I overcame it in that way, and I think that's why also in my business I take care of people. You know, I have my clients to take care of, I have my team to take care of. Not just take care of, because obviously they make a huge contribution to me and I couldn't do the business without them.
yeah.
But I have to make sure that they know where to go and how to do it. And I do a lot of training with my people to make sure we're all on the same page with the work. And so I think in some ways it was almost a gift that I became hyper aware as a child of, what's needed.
Mm,
And and I think that that's one of my strengths, as you said.
absolutely. Everything
Yeah.
is a gift, isn't it? In some way. I mean, it's that law of opposites, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wherever there's good, there's always a balance. So, how do you keep motivated through difficult times?
That's a good question. Like I said, remembering to be grateful has been really helpful. And I belong to a gratitude group where we text each other with 3 things we're grateful for. And by reaching out to friends, by having good friends. I think that that's really important to have people who are at the same or similar stage of life who
Mm.
understand the challenges, who you can call, you can talk to when you're not necessarily feeling up and this is amazing, but you have challenges. I think having people to talk to is so important and has been for me. I
Okay.
moved to America 10 years ago, and so although I knew a couple of people here, I've had to sort of rebuild my life and my friendships. And that has been quite challenging at times because there's no friends like your old friends.
No,
When I
that's
go back to
true.
Australia and there's people that you've been through all this whatever with, and you have a shorthand. And so it's just important to keep reaching out. I would say that's my top thing, even if it's through going to a yoga class or belonging to a community of some sort.
It is important. I think that's what humans are built for, aren't they? But on that, what was the catalyst that took you to America in the,
Well, I was married. My ex-husband is American,
I see,
and
right.
but we lived in Australia, but I had a green card. Um,
Right, right.
I was coming back and forth to just maintain my citizenship. And eventually I just started being here longer and longer and there, Australia less and less. And so it was sort of a gradual thing. I
Right.
love it here, California. California is the home of so many amazing things.
Mm.
Although, political things right now are kind of challenging, but I don't know. I needed a change. I got divorced and I needed a change. That's the sort of the short end of it. And now my daughter, Rainey, lives in LA, but my
Okay.
son's still in Australia, Jesse. So,
Oh, wow.
so
Oh,
we're spread around and their dad is still in Australia as well. So we're spread.
okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you for answering that. My next question to you is, what is the best advice you've received recently, would you say, if any?
Re- Recently,
Yeah. Anything come to mind?
not recently. I mean, that is one of my challenges that I run my own business. I'm independent. I'm the boss of all the people. And I did do some therapy last year because after coming out of COVID, was COVID was challenging
Mm,
uh, with isolation. But I don't know about advice. That's advice I would give to myself is like find a mentor,
yeah.
find someone to give you advice. That's where sometimes being the boss of a company can be isolating.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
So I
So
don't
next,
really, sorry, I don't have an answer for
okay.
that one.
No,
I don't
it's
really have
great.
an answer.
That's great, actually. Um, my next question to you is, what advice would you give to other aspiring female entrepreneurs as an incredible female leader?
Don't let anyone tell you you can't do it.
Awesome advice. I love it.
Because I think even though we've come a long way, women face extra challenges.
We do.
There are a lot of amazing women entrepreneurs and women business owners out there. Recently, one of my people and I were designing a workshop on extemporaneous speaking, and we
Mm,
wanted to share some video examples of people, great speakers. And you know this yourself, like trying to find videos of exceptional women. There was, so many more male examples, so
right.
many more. We did find a few. It's different with like prepared speeches and TED Talks and things like that. There are a lot of women in those spaces, but
Mm,
women who actually get up in a crisis or whatever and speak extemporaneously and well, we found that very challenging. So I think that there is still quite a bias in terms of women in leadership. Well, look what happened in the elections here in the States,
mm.
case in point.
Okay, well, that's a really interesting perspective. Thank you for sharing that. So, what are your favorite business tools or resources and why? What do you find really useful?
Well, I've been using LinkedIn a lot lately, which is how we refound each other, I
Yes,
think.
I have too, actually.
So there's a lot of inspiring content there and also a great way of meeting people. attracting clients, um, and I guess for me, sort of enhancing my credibility.
Mm.
Because I think of myself now more as a supporting actor, not as a star actor. And so have stayed in the shadows behind my business in a way. Although I named the business after myself, peers and players.
I love it. I love alliteration.
But to promote myself as a person, that's what I'm doing a lot more these days. Because after all these years, I do have skills, I do have some wisdom about what we do. And I'm really, really proud of the work that we do. And because it's been so consistent since I've been in the States for the last 10 years. So LinkedIn, I think, is a big way to just, firstly, I have to post all the time and post my own opinions and let my own
Mm.
vulnerability show. And so it's helping me to get used to promoting myself
It
as a
takes
part of
practice,
it.
doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that sounds great. I think it's
And of
a
course, spreadsheets. I mean, where
spreadsheet.
would I be
Oh my God, I
without
hate spreadsheets.
spreadsheets? Because I'm constantly, I have with my team, we're constantly booking people, and I like to be as fair as possible with my team. And so I've got literally 100 actors doing the Cisco jobs.
It's a lot to
In,
stay on top of, isn't it?
and I've really learned to use spreadsheets. So
Mm.
that's the sort of, macro and the micro.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so moving on now, what are your current goals and how are you striving to achieve them? Do you have any current or would it be what you're doing with LinkedIn, for instance, at the moment?
My goal for my business in the next 3 years is probably to sell it,
To
but
exit.
stay on as a consultant back to my business.
Okay.
Because the day-to-day running, I want to go to Mexico. I want to, be able to go away and travel and not be constantly committed. But I also want to still give of my wisdom and my expertise. So that's what I'm working towards, is building it to a place where I can find either a partner or a buyer to to run it, and then have me back to make sure that we still have a great product, that we
Yeah.
still have our integrity intact. But I would really like to find a partner or a buyer.
Well, that sounds like a really great goal, and it sounds like you're already on the way with your attention to LinkedIn and beginning to promote yourself rather than your business and becoming that wise. I can see it happening. You're already on the way. So that's
Thank you.
fantastic. So tell me, Lisa, are you currently running any promos or contests or giveaways that you want to tell our listeners and viewers about?
Well, for your listeners, we can offer a half-hour demo of Courageous Conversations, which is our main offering that we do, which is bring your own difficult conversation that you have to have in future with somebody. It might be a boss or a peer, or quite often a team member or a subordinate. Or in this case, it might not be business related, but
Okay.
we'll work with you to practice that, to discuss that conversation, to get a good perspective on it, practice it, and get some coaching.
Oh, that sounds really, really valuable. Thank you so much. That's very generous.
Just mention this podcast, and we'll be happy to, in whatever region, whether it's Australia or the States, we have people in all the
Oh, thank
places.
you, Lisa. That's really, really valuable. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay,
of course.
we've only got two more questions to go. And the next question is,
Okay.
what would you say to inspire other women?
Look, for me, a great part of my journey, as we've discussed, is being a parent. And so we're expected to be superwoman, you know? That was when I was doing a lot of TV commercials. I was always the super mum. I was always like running off to be a nurse and then coming home and serving up the amazing noodles for dinner or whatever,
Yeah, it's like,
you know. And so I think it's really great to show your kids that you have a passion or a career or something, as well as your devotion to them. And so how do you balance that? I don't think I have an answer to that, but I think it's worth doing.
Well, I
Don't get
think what
so
you're
burned out
talking,
by being a parent or don't get so burned out by your career, but somehow find a way to balance that. Because I think both my kids have amazing careers. They're both musicians.
oh,
And not that I planned that, but I think that the fact that they saw me have a creative career as well as being focused on being a good mother and being a parent, I think don't be afraid to find that balance, even though it can be challenging at times.
and the other message I'm getting from this is also being
If
a,
that's what you want to do. I'm
if
not
that's
saying
what you want
everybody should
to
have
do, yes,
kids. You know
but
what I mean? I'm not saying everybody needs to be a parent or have kids if that's not your path,
no,
then
but what I think what you, I mean, would I be right in thinking that what you're saying is being a good role model for your children?
yeah. And following your passion,
Yeah,
finding what lights you up and not neglecting to give that to yourself.
absolutely. I think it's the biggest gift you can give yourself in life.
Yeah.
So tell me, Lisa, how can we connect with you?
Oh, our website, www.peersandplayers.com, and all the info's in there about how to email us, call us, fill out the form. And
Fantastic.
check out our YouTube channel. Of course, we have a lot of videos and things on there showing what we do and how we work.
And LinkedIn, of course.
Of course, LinkedIn, how could I forget?
How can you forget LinkedIn? Okay, so we've got your website, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And are you
Correct.
on other social media as well, or those?
Yeah, we don't do as much on the others, but yes, we've got Instagram and Facebook and all of those other things. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I know it's really valuable, and it's great to speak to you all the way in San Francisco from the other
Yeah, it's
end.
been getting dark. Is it getting dark? It's been getting dark. It's turning into nighttime
No,
here. Well,
no, the light is fantastic. So thank
that's
you
great.
again, Lisa. It's
Thank
been
you so much. It's really been a pleasure talking to you. And it's so great to be spurred to think about those questions because it's not something you do every day. So I appreciate
it's
it.
not. Oh, bless. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank
And
you.
talk
Thank you for the
soon.
invitation. And I hope your podcast is a huge success. It's a great topic.
Thank you, Lisa. All the
Thanks.
best. Wishing you
You too.
amazing success, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. And you. See you in Mexico.
See you in Mexico. Bye, Lisa.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Gotta Show podcast. We hope you've enjoyed it. And if you did, feel free to like, subscribe, share, and we look forward to seeing you next time.